we'll see how it goes. At any rate, Diane, I'm going to start with your bio.
Okay, thank you.
Diane Dixon spent 40 years in the private sector as a business executive before being elected to the Newport Beach City Council in 2014. She is serving her second term as mayor and has served as chair of the Water Quality and Tidelands Committee and as chair of the Finance Committee. Fiscal responsibility and government transparency have been the hallmarks of her time at City Hall. Diane's leadership has helped her city deliver budget surpluses, pay down pension liabilities, improve public safety, and complete infrastructure projects on time and within budget. A regional leader, Diane currently serves as president of the Association of California Cities, Orange County. She previously served as an alternate director of the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency. She has been an active member on several philanthropic community-based boards of directors for nearly 4 decades, including the United Way Orange County, the YMCA, Public Television, USC Board of Counselors and Alumni Association, and educational institutions and child service agencies and health-related organizations. During a 40-year business career, she spent 30 years as a senior executive at a Fortune 300 public company, where she was responsible for the company's global communications, marketing communications, and corporate philanthropy. She managed the intersection of business and government, forging connections among businesses, government, and communities and nonprofit organizations. She earned her Bachelor's of Arts with honors in political science from the University of Southern California. Please welcome Diane Dixon. Diane, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks all. Thank you, Emil and Michelle and the Laguna Beach Republicans. It's wonderful just to be with you. It's always wonderful to be with a room full of Republicans, whether on Zoom or not. So it's just a pleasure to be with you. We are in the last, 22 days before November 3rd. And so we're pedal to the metal, all systems are go. We're going to win this race. And so it's a pleasure to talk to all of you committed Republicans, because you are so essential to how we are going to win this race. Every one of you and your friends of friends of friends are key to how we all are going to win. How Supervisor Michelle Steele and State Senator Moorlach, we all need everybody's help to get out. We know all of you listening because you care, you're civic minded, you care about our system of governments, whether on the local or state or federal level, and that's why you belong to the Laguna Beach Republicans. We need to create a momentum and just increase your commitment with everybody you know, because this is what we're in the period now of really, as we all know, we all have our ballots and get out to vote. We all know this is the most important election nationally. We hear this every day. It's also the most important election in our state. And we just have to keep our brains focused on these 2 levels, because it is absolutely essential to protect our quality of life in California. The policy making that comes out of Sacramento directly impacts our education, our businesses, our taxes, our incomes, our quality of life in our communities, our public safety. What they do in Washington is absolutely important to our lives as well. But here at the state level, when people, in fact, I talk to them, they say, well, what does the assembly person do? Well, it's a vote to protect our quality of life and our way of life and our just the financial stability of our state affects everybody, every business owner and every resident. Right now, Laguna Beach and the rest of our district, which includes Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach, half of Huntington Beach, and most of Irvine and Laguna Woods are represented by an assembly person who won in 2018 in a kind of a freak upset with all the ballot harvesting election results that took place in 2018. And now we have seen her in office for 2 years. And honestly, she does not represent this district. And that is why I decided to give up my city council term. I still have 2 more years remaining on my term. And I said, somebody has to win this seat. Somebody has to try to win this seat. And somebody has to go to Sacramento and represent and be aligned with the wishes and the values of our constituents in Assembly District 74, whether it's public safety, whether it's business, whether it's educational choice, whether it's transparency, whether it's protecting our children. She is not on the same side of all of us who are participating in this call and all Republicans. She voted a yes on AB 5. She passed it. She voted yes all the way through. And that has really been so disruptive to independent contractors and employment and business conditions in our state, as we all know. She's voted yes on all the bills that have started to be introduced related to defunding the police, everything that goes along with defunding the police and restricting the authorities and responsibilities of our police. She's on that side. Now, many of those bills didn't make it through the legislature, but they'll be back. She sponsored, or she supported, two of the most recent income tax positions, income tax bills that she's taken a position not to support taxpayers. These are revolutionary, new to the country, that propose to tax global wealth, all your assets. And then if you leave California and establish residency elsewhere, they'll claw back 10 years of your income producing years and get you for the last 10 years. So she is not on the side of the conservative, pragmatic, common sense, pro-business voters in Assembly District 74. Let me just tell you a couple of significant things. I have been endorsed proudly. I wear this banner proudly by the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, by the Orange County Register, by the Newport Beach Police Officers Association. She has yet to take a position on Proposition 15. We know that would undo one half of the structure, the framework of Proposition 13. And if that passes, you know that and through the contents of the bill, the legislature can unwind what remains is the residential part of Proposition 13 that we've all been living with, and protecting our property and our financial situation, all and our market value of our properties, and limiting the size of government through that since 1978. She has not taken a position. Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association has endorsed me. The Register has endorsed me for my common sense positions on all these issues that I described. There's one key issue on public safety I'll just spend a moment talking to you about, because it, in my mind, is unconscionable. There's a new law, SB 145, that removes the penalties or requirements of sexual registration for sexual predators. If the predator and the person have within no more than 10-year age difference. So for example, the practical application is a 24-year-old young man can assault a 14-year-old and not have to be convicted of sexual not be a sexual predator. I mean, this is unconscionable, and not to protect our children and people who live near parks. I mean, this is just unbelievable. She did not take a position. She did not vote to protect our children. So it is very concerning. There's land use bills that have been proliferating out of Sacramento. She has been on the yes side of all those bills that will take away local control, that remove the voice of the people at the local level and take away the powers of the city councils. That's why I decided to run when I saw these new bills and laws coming down. Why are we changing our municipal code? It's because there are new mandates. The new word is mandate. And we're certainly right now living under the worst mandate of all. And that is how the governor has closed our businesses and closed our schools. And going forward, just to conclude on what I'm for, is reopening our businesses, especially our small businesses, all businesses, safely and responsibly, reopening our schools safely and responsibly, protecting our communities from rising crime. The governor has released 17,000 convicts filtering now through the state of California. And at the same time, there have been a relaxation of our criminal justice laws, our penalties, our parole, our bail. It's like, protect the criminal, protect the convicted, but forget about the victims and the crime victims that are part and parcel to crime. So I come with a different sensibility. I want to represent the people of this district. This district is 30% slight edge Republicans, slightly independents, and Democrats. And so this is my message to all of you listening tonight. If every single Republican votes for Diane Dixon, I don't know if I will win. We have to get independents. There are a lot of independents. We've polled them. The independents will vote by a large margin for Diane Dixon because of the platform issues that I've described. So tell your friends who are no party preference. Many of your friends have children who are no party preference. And when I talk to independents, I've been knocking on doors for the last 3 weeks. And when I go only to independents, well, primarily independents, and they say, oh, we're voting for you, Diane, we're voting for you. We can get these votes, but it's really important that all of us on this call today, this is the grassroots effort that we all are engaged in, is telling everybody to vote Republican. And if you're an independent, vote Republican for all of these reasons. So I want to thank you all for what you're doing for the cause. You believe in it. We couldn't do this without you. And I'd be honored to represent you in Sacramento because this district needs a conservative representative in Sacramento to fight against the supermajority, that it's their way or the highway. And there's no debate, there's no consensus driving legislation, there's no sausage making, it's just boom. We have AB 5, we have reduction in sentences and criminal justice. They're trying to eliminate charter schools, and they can do it because they have a supermajority. We have to chip away at that supermajority, and by my election successfully, we'll start to chip away at that. So with that, I just want to thank you. Thank you, Laguna Beach Republicans. You are the front end to all this, our fighting army. And we need to really get everybody out and to vote and to tell your independent friends they have to vote Republican. So vote Diane Dixon, and we can do this. And I could join the triumvirate of Michelle Steele and John Moorlach and winning our elections and having a new day for Orange County, that we could take this county back, and we will. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And now I'm going to see if there's any questions from anybody. That you can do that by using the chat button. And if there are questions, I will ask them of Diane.
Happy to answer any questions you may have. Just know that any position you have, I'm most likely 100% aligned with you. And the current representative is 180 the other way.
Well, at the moment, I don't see any questions coming in. But I do want to thank you, Diane, for letting us know what I may have missed one.
How can the state legislature accelerate reopening? Well, Michelle would be able to answer this call or question. How can the state legislature accelerate the reopening? Sadly, the legislature can't. We have a governor who's the authoritarian governor, and only he makes these decisions. The legislature is not involved in this, and Senator Moorlach can probably add more color to this discussion. We, and Michelle, I'm sure we'll talk about this, we as a county are meeting all of our key targets. The problem is the governor moves the goalposts, keeps moving them and moving them and moving them. And we have to rise higher, higher, higher in terms of making the qualifications. So I'll let Michelle answer that. But the important point is the legislature doesn't make the decision. It's the governor, the sole person who's ruling the state of California. Got to end those lockdowns to get people back to work and get our businesses open. And yes, I'm still taking donations. I should tell you my website, DianeDixonAssembly2020.com, DianeDixonAssembly2020.com. And thank you very much. Just to put a finer point on it, my opponent on her public records on contributions, over 75 labor union, state and national labor union organizations paid her off for her vote on AB 5 and have maxed out contributions, over 75. She doesn't do meet and greet fundraisers like I do. She gets the money from the unions, and that has really fueled, and independent expenditure committees. So they're rewarding her in full force. So we're doing it the old fashioned way. We're relying on individual contributions. So I'm always grateful for anything anybody can do. So thank you.
I don't see any other questions out there.
Sign the recall petition. Somebody asked about the recall governor. Sign it. I think the third time's a charm. They're going to get this done.
Absolutely. I guess we can't sign it more than once, but
Sign once, sign early, vote often.
yes, all those kinds of things.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure to talk with your group, and I'll enjoy listening to my cohorts.
So I think everybody is on, including Michelle Steele. Are you okay, Michelle? Or should we skip to John because he's on as well? She's muted.
You're muted, Michelle. There you go.
Okay, I'm okay. Thank you, Emil.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me today.
Let me do an introduction. It's shorter than it looks. Michelle Steele was born in Seoul, South Korea. She was educated in South Korea, Japan, and the United States. Holds a degree in business from Pepperdine and an MBA from the University of Southern California, and is fluent in Korean and Japanese. She has been active in Republican Party politics and served on various commissions in the George W. Bush administration. She was elected to the California State Board of Equalization in 2006, and throughout her tenure, she served as the county's highest-ranking Korean American office holder and California's highest-ranking Republican woman. In 2011, she was elected vice chair of the Board of Equalization. In 2014, she ran successfully to become a member of the Orange County Board of Supervisors and served as vice chair of the board in 2016 and was unanimously elected to serve as the chairwoman in 2017. Now, in March of 2018, she was the only elected official to greet President Donald Trump when he landed at LAX on his first official visit to California as president. I think that's significant. The only one was you, Michelle. In 2018, you also won re-election with 63% of the vote, eliminating the need for a runoff round. So in 2019, she was appointed by Donald Trump to be on the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. Lastly, she is running against Harley Rauda in the 48th Congressional District. Rauda votes, according to his, the last thing I saw, 100% of the time with Nancy Pelosi. So, and he also voted to do allow a proxy for his vote. So I'm sure that with Harley Rauda voting 100% of the time for Nancy Pelosi, I'm not sure why we needed to elect him. We could just have Nancy Pelosi be the congressperson from this congressional district. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to you, Michelle, and give us some insights into where we are in the campaign, the issues, and what you'd like us to do for you.
Thank you very much, Emil. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good, good. So, you know what? Laguna Beach is very, very important. I went down 2 weeks ago. Actually, I've been walking for last 7 weeks. And you know what? Saturday, I walk in North County. And then, Sunday, I walk in South County. So I was in Aliso Viejo actually 2 weeks ago, and somebody was looking at my shirts that, Michelle Steele for Congress. And this old couple who are sitting at the bench, and they said, "Go Ruda." So you know what? I turned around, I went back to him. He saw my back of my shirts that Michelle Steele for Congress. So I went back to him. I took off my mask and I said, "You know what? I am Michelle Steele. I'm running for your candidate, Harley Ruda." And then I said, "You know what? We are totally black and white. If you read this flyer, that you know why you have to vote for me." I see his wife's face, very embarrassed. And he said, oh, let me read this and then let me rethink about it. That's the way it is. But South County, since I am not representing right now, that I really need your help to get out there. And you know what? Our campaign's doing really well. We have over 100 volunteers. And you know what? We've been walking more than 7 weeks. Actually, my husband's been walking 8 weeks. There's not even one complaint. And actually, somebody called that, you know what? Somebody's name is Sean. He was pertaining that he is Michelle's husband. Are you sure that her husband is walking? That's the way they were asking me. So you know what? My husband is really actively walking. So we all are walking right now. And it's just amazing that we made more than 1 million calls doesn't, we don't have million constituents, but we've been calling Republicans, independents, and Democrats, like what Diane's been doing. Independents are very, very important. Of course, we have great candidates here. Diane has to win. John Moorlach has to win. And you know what? Republicans have to win, and we have to take over. You are asking us a little bit about the governor, what he's going to do. He's really enjoying his dictatorship at this point. And you know what? If somebody who's 7 year old who owns the cookie jar, guess what? He doesn't know what to do. He's enjoying it so much. So he was threatening all the 58 counties, that you know what? If you don't listen to me, you have to return all the CARES Act money since we gave you since March. That's the way he is working. And then you know what? He keeps raising bars or creating another bars to move next level. Orange County's been doing really good. That you know what? I'm the one declared the state of emergency 1 week before state even did. So we have about 3% infection rate right now. A little bit up, a little bit down. Every day is different, but it's really good. Out of 14 urban counties, LA, comparing to LA or other counties, we are doing the best. And then I kept sending the letter out to governor or op-ed piece that, you know what, give us the local control because we know how to do it. Since our school was opened since August, you saw that there's no surge. It means that we are doing something right, so we have to do it. Let me go back to campaign. Since last year, June, that I announced that, you know what, by June, exactly 1 year, I raised $3.3 million. And last report, from July 1st through September 30th, I raised 1.75 million. So I raised over $5 million. It's not just, what I did, because all the leadership's been coming out to help all the fundraisers, especially our former speaker, Newt Gingrich, actually called in from Italy. And then second lady called in, Karen Pence called in for my Zoom fundraiser. And Cabinet Secretary of Transportation Elaine Chao, Mitch McConnell, our Senate leader's wife, did a Zoom call fundraiser. And of course, Republican Whip Scalise, he's just amazing. When you send, your candidate, sometimes you're not really sure. So you know what? You just ask them that, oh my God, am I doing right thing? Steve just sent me right back that text message answering that, Michelle, you're awesome. You're doing great job. These leaders are just amazingly helping me. And Republican leader Kevin McCarthy, of course, next week, he's flying in just for my event. And then he's going to go back to his district. So I am so grateful. And Congressional Leadership Fund, and they're actually targeting, number one is Mike Garcia. You remember during the special election that he won. And then second one is my district, because this is six plus seat, Republican seat, but we still have to go after independent. But you know what? We really have to work hard, but this is very, very close. And we are working very, very hard right now. My opponent and me, we can compare totally black and white. And you know what? I go for lower taxes. I returned over $400 million back to the taxpayers when I was a board member. My opponent voted to increase taxes while he does not pay his own. And right now that I'm chair of Orange County Board of Supervisor, and I declared the state of emergency, I told you, and then you know what? We are doing really well. And my opponent's been sitting at home and he's been complaining that I am the one send you CARES Act money and you guys are not doing really well. He's not really reading anything, because he sent the proxy. He didn't even go to Washington, D.C. And Pelosi decided not to count any proxies. So he never even voted for CARES Act money. And then he used to say, you know what? I used to be Republicans and I'm moderate. So I know how you think, and I'm gonna, I totally understand that what you are doing, and I'm gonna be with you. Guess what? Emil, you just talked to people about that. He voted with Pelosi for 100% of the time. He voted with AOC 92% of the time. And Democrats have a lot of people that don't have any brains, like Maxine Water. He voted with Maxine Water for 97% of the time. Bottom line is between him and me, I have a proven record, and he does not have anything except raising taxes. So, when I win, that I'm gonna go for lower taxes, especially salt, state and local taxes. Right now, you can deduct only up to $10,000 for state income tax from when you file for federal income tax. So that has to be repealed. Second, my opponent is for Medicare for all. When people say Medicare, it's all free. No, it's not. It's trillions of dollars that, we have to ask private sector to come in and they can compete, and then we can get lower premium. And plus that you can choose your own, plans, because my daughter needs different than what I need. And then we have to make sure that pre-existing conditions has to be included. And then third, that drug price, it has to be lower that. So I'm gonna work really hard. I am one of you. My opponent, when governor closed down only Orange County beaches, 3.2 million Orange County residents could not enjoy beach except the one person. That was my opponent. So I am one of you. He thinks that he is above of us. You know what? You really need me to go there, but I really need your help, because South County, we need more than ever that, all the votes and all the help and all the walk. So you know what? I'm asking you to help us, not just me, but Diane and, John Moorlach. We have a great candidates that, we really have to win. We have 22 days to go. You know what? There's an end date. I think Diane thinking the same thing. John Moorlach's thinking the same thing. I'm thinking the same thing. But you know what? On November 3rd, we all gonna enjoy victory, and we are ready to win. Thank you, Emil, for inviting us, and it's great to meeting everybody there.
Thank you very much. That was enthusiastic, and I think it really shows the difference between the alleged former Republican Harley Rauda, who is voting with AOC and Nancy Pelosi, and what a real Republican conservative would be. So absolutely, you've got to win. And for those that can, I think a donation to your campaign would be very, very appropriate. In fact, when we get off this call, I'm going to write you another check.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just trying to see if there's anybody here who might have a question. I'm looking at it and I don't see any. Do you, Alex? No. So no questions. We're moving a little bit faster than I thought, and I think we can ask John to come in. John, are you? There you are. But you can't start yet, John, because I have to do my same introduction, which I think comes in at 1 minute and 50 seconds, give or take. So 1 minute and 51 I wrote down. John Moorlach began his career in public service while practicing as a private sector certified public accountant and certified financial planner. In 1994, when he warned that the then Orange County Treasurer tax collector Robert Citron's risky investment strategies would lead to bankruptcy. And that was, I was here in 94, I left later and came back, but that was unbelievable at the time that this county was going to go bankrupt. And John was calling it, and he called it right. In the aftermath, the Board of Supervisors appointed John to serve out the term of County Treasurer tax collector, where he took immediate steps to reorganize county finances, cut losses, lessen risk, and create efficiencies within government. John was twice reelected to County Treasurer tax collector, and in 2006, voters elected John to serve in his first 2 terms on the Board of Supervisors, where he continued to focus on reforming the county's budget practices and sounding the alarm on the county's growing unfunded liabilities. A 1977 graduate from California State University in Long Beach, John was recognized in 2014 as the California State University Long Beach College of Business Administration Alumnus of the Year. He passed the CPA exam in 1978, completed his studies for Certified Financial Planner designation in 1987. He earned a Certificate of Public Finance from the University of Delaware Division of Continuing Education in 1995. The Certificate of Achievement in Public Plan Policy and Employee Pensions in 1999, and the Trustees Master's Program in 2003 through the International Foundation of Employee Benefit Plans, and the New Supervisors Training Institute in 2007 from California State University in Sacramento in cooperation.
That's a lot of detail, Emil. You don't have to do all that.
Well, I just want to say one more thing. I'm done. I won't say anything else. Yes, you're right. There's a lot of detail. Sorry about that. But I didn't know where to cut because there's so much stuff in there. So when John talks about pensions and pension liability, this is where I was going to go with thought, which took me forever to get to. What you have is somebody who knows what he's talking about. And most of the people in Sacramento in the Senate, I don't think they do, even if they did care. So with that, I give you John Moorlach.
Thank you, Mr. President. And greetings to the Laguna Beach Republicans from my headquarters here in Newport Beach. I'm sorry we're not at the Mozambique restaurant where we've had lots of fun together over the years. But thank you, Emil and Michelle. You guys are real superstars. I appreciate your leadership, your generosity, and your walking precincts. Your models, and you're setting the tone, and you're good mentors for your club members. So thank you. Stay safe. I don't know how to follow two outstanding candidates like Diane and Michelle. Really excited to be working with them with their campaigns. But what a year. You asked about opening up the lockdown. As a senator, I voted, I don't know how many times, to bring a resolution to the floor each time we had session just to debate the termination of the state of emergency with Governor Newsom's lockdown, and the Democrats refused to do that almost every time. They just waived the ability to do it. So the Democrats are in full cahoots with Governor Newsom and his silliness and his decisions, and they need to take ownership of it. And it sort of reminds me that we're getting close to Halloween, and I'm noticing this last weekend that I saw the famous Geico commercial. It's only 30 seconds, but it's got 4 teenagers, and the narrator says something like, what's it like to be in a horror movie? And these 4 kids are scared. They're trying to get away, and one of them says the obvious, "Why don't we just go into the running car?" And another one says, "Are you crazy? Let's go hide behind the 20 chainsaws in the barn." And you just kind of see the chainsaw murderer lift his hockey mask, and he just kind of rolls his eyes, and he says, "Oh, these kids," and the problem with that commercial, one, it's really funny, but 2, it's too close to home. I get to see teenagers making the wrong decisions on the Senate floor over and over and over again. And it's so frustrating to watch the majority party do the opposite of what they should be doing. And so I thought I'd give you a couple of examples, but it kind of explains perhaps why we're seeing such a large out-migration right now from California. The latest being Ben Shapiro, who announced that he would be moving to Tennessee. And I get those kinds of stories almost on a weekly basis of another company that's left the state because the legislature keeps making the wrong decisions. We just had Charles Schwab out of San Francisco merge with Ameritrade out of Omaha, Nebraska. And where is the new headquarters going to be? It's going to be in Dallas, Texas. And Dallas, Texas is located in a state with a 0 income tax, personal income tax. So you can see what's happening, and it's just been amazing. So it's sort of funny. I just maybe I could do a Geico commercial. Let's address greenhouse gases. Yeah, great. Let's pursue renewable energy. Yeah, great. Can we include nuclear and hydro in that? Are you crazy? Let's disregard those two and just build solar and wind farms. You know, it's just amazing. And then they want everyone to drive electric cars. Well, guess what? They charge those cars in the evening when solar and wind is not available. And so it's really funny that you kind of want to ask the Democrats, hey, should we kind of keep the natural gas generating power plants in California? And it's sort of like, are you crazy? Why don't we just force everybody to own an electric car? And it's almost a comedy routine if it weren't so tragically true. We had a summer heat wave and we had brownouts for the first time in 2 decades, and we had to buy coal generated electric power if we could get it from out of state generating plants. I mean, the comedy just keeps happening here in California with the supermajority party, and with their emphasis on pursuing renewable energy by forcing the utilities to find alternate sources and not be able to use nuclear or hydro in their numbers. They found that the utilities deferred their maintenance on their power lines. And so we did a bill, did it with your city, and I've shared this story with your club before, but we did a bill to try to encourage the California Public Utilities Commission and the CAL FIRE to hurry up and get maps done to show where are the high risk wildfire zones that are highly populated, where we should try and do something about these power lines. And we were able to get that bill through the Senate, took 3 committees, the floor, the Assembly, 3 committees, the floor, back to the Senate for concurrence. Every legislator said, we've got to fix these fire maps. We got to start working on mitigating high voltage lines, because the 133 has wooden power, well, they're telephone poles, but they carry your voltage, your high electric voltage into Laguna Beach. And 59 of those poles have been knocked down in a 10-year period. I don't know if it's a drunk driver or falling asleep or avoiding an animal or not paying attention, making a phone call, who knows what. But when those poles fall and those lines snap, you have a fire risk with sparks everywhere. And that bill went to Governor Brown's desk, and he said, are you crazy? He vetoed the bill and said the CPUC and CAL FIRE were doing fine. That was in 2016. In 2017 and 2018, we saw high power voltage electric lines snap in Northern California, caused wildfires, and killed more than 120 people. This is not funny anymore. This is not Halloween anymore. This is real. And the majority of the people that couldn't get out of Napa and Sonoma were age 70 and older. Because why? Because perhaps the electricity was out and they couldn't get their garages open, didn't know how to get the car out. And they found couples in their arms when they found the bodies in the wreckage. This is almost, it was criminal. And that's what we're getting from the majority party, that we could get a governor that would veto such a simple bill. You can just see the guy in the commercial taking his mask off and shaking his head. So I should disclose, Mr. President, that Geico has contributed to my campaign, and so I will mention them shamelessly, but the commercial is sort of a classic. But Orange County has a choice. We have good Republican candidates running for the legislature and for Congress. In me, you have a former partner, 10 years in a CPA firm. You have a Republican, a conservative, a proven public track record as treasurer, tax collector, as supervisor, and 6 years as your state senator. But I just hope the residents of California don't become teenagers and say, are you crazy? We can vote for liberal Democrats. We can vote for liberal socialistic individuals that are in the Bernie Sanders mode. And that would be a sad and tragic joke, but it is a serious concern. We saw it in 2018. We have a county that is changing and the demographics are changing, and we have to work hard. We have to make sure that we're not complacent. Republicans don't win automatically anymore. The Sacramento Bee did a rather lengthy article on the 4 senators that are targets. And for Orange County, they were very clear to show that the numbers had changed. When I ran for supervisor, my district was 50+% Republican. Now it's 34%. So things are really different, and we have to work, because the options are voters running into the barn where the chainsaws are, and it will be awful for Orange County, and it will be awful for the state of California, because the last thing we need to do is to increase the number of senators in the majority party. This state will really go off the cliff if we're not careful. We will definitely see the mask coming off and the eyes rolling and the head shaking. So with that, I'm a center-right Republican having fun with a good track record. I have a hands-on experience in the private sector, 18 years with my firm, 12 years as treasurer tax collector, 8 years as your county supervisor for the 2nd district, helped lead the county through the Great Recession, helped reduce our retiree medical liability by $1 billion and reducing our annual required contribution by $100 million a year. So during my term as supervisor, I was able to return the $1.7 billion that the lone Democrat in Orange County government lost for us with his investment strategies. And now I have 6 years of experience as a state senator. I also have hands-on life experience, predicting the bankruptcy, turning around the county, dealing with John Wayne Airport settlement agreement and other activities around the county. So I know this county, and so I have roots and I have relationships with your city council. They can always contact me and get things done promptly, and I respond to their requests. I've been working with Bob Whalen and Steve Dictorow and Tony Eisman. Worked with Bob Whalen on the bill to try and deal with the power lines. Worked with Steve with the Dana Rohrabacher's office, and dealt with Tony when she and I served on the Orange County Vector Control District. So we have relationships. I can work across the aisle, and it's great to have those kinds of long-term relationships with the other cities in my district as well. Ask Diane. I have access with all 7 city council members, and I have contact with the Board of Supervisors and I still have a relationship with department heads. So we can get things done in a rather quick manner. And my core priorities, I'm really concerned about the fiscal health of our state, our counties and cities, and our school systems. And you mentioned it, Mr. President, pension reform is a big issue, and it's getting worse. Cities are finding that they're still laying off people and still seeing their pension costs increase. And this thing is choking everything out. And you're going to see your fire departments and your police departments suffer for it. I also have a real burden for the homeless. I was chairman of the Commission to End Homelessness, and certainly have visited Laguna Beach's facility on Laguna Canyon Road. I have a real concern for the severely mentally ill. Work real hard to implement Laura's Law at the county level, and we were the 2nd county in 12 years to do it, and now 17 other counties have followed suit, and they've done studies and wonder why the other counties haven't implemented Laura's Law yet. It's been really helpful in dealing with the homeless. I also got more psychiatric beds in the county. We only had 10 when I was a supervisor for 3.2 million people. We only had 10 psychiatric beds for police officers to bring people going through a psychotic episode to emergency rooms. And so we've got that moving. I was also joint author of No Place Like Home, which put Prop 2 on the ballot in 2018, using Mental Health Services Act funding, not a new tax, but using an existing tax resource to get financing for $2 billion in housing to house those that are homeless and severely mentally ill. I've also been working in the wildfire space, of course, with Laguna Beach, but been doing it several bills over the years. And in fact, one of my ideas, which was to use cap and trade funds, an existing revenue stream, to reduce wildfires, harden hardline utility lines, so that we could reduce greenhouse gases. A wildfire in 2.5 days creates as much greenhouse gas as all the cars in California driving for a year. So if you don't think that the other party is insincere in their attempts to address climate change, I can't find one example that is egregious enough to say that they're phonies about this subject. If we don't reduce these wildfires, we negate everything they're trying to do. Making everyone drive an electric car isn't going to make a dent in what the other party is trying to do. So with that, I work across the aisle. It's nice to see that not all Democrat state senators have endorsed my opponent, and I haven't trashed him, although he set up a phony website and a phony Facebook account, which is sort of, over the top. But I've worked real well with my Senate colleagues and my 3 committee chairs that I serve as vice chair. They know that having good Republicans is necessary for balance in the legislature. And I've got plenty of joint efforts with bills and co-authoring to prove it. So I'm here. I've been working for you. I'm accessible. I'm involved. I'm forthright, effective, and I've been a voice for the business community. I've opposed tax hikes, certainly with Prop 15, strongly opposed. I'm also supportive of assisting those that have become COVID-19 harmed employees and businesses. And my office is assisting everyone that calls to get their EDD unemployment insurance benefits. But we can't afford to have Orange County voters become the Geico comedy commercial teenagers. They can't have one character say, let's vote for John Moorlach, and have another say, are you kidding? When we've got a liberal Bernie Sanders type opponent, that is not funny, and that is trouble, but it's possible. So we've got to work hard. And I want to thank Michelle and Diane. They are superstars. We're also working with Greg Ratz on the other part of my district. And we're working with the Republican Club. So I want to thank you for yours. We're raising money. We had a nice fundraiser today. Our keynoter was Dr. Drew Pinsky, and he just did a super job. We did a lunch because he's on Fox News in the evening. So I just want to thank you, Mr. President, you and your wife, Michelle, for being there for this moment. We've got just a short time left, so we need to be there with our treasure and our time. We're making phone calls, we're walking, just like everyone else. And thank you for stepping up to the opportunity. The 3 of us are most grateful.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you to Diane and Michelle. It has been really informative. I'm trying to see if I see any questions there, and I think there might be one. How is the state planning on covering your efforts to take gravely disabled, mentally ill people off the streets? I didn't quite read that right.
There were 2 questions. This was the first one.
I think it kind of got blurred there. Sorry. The first is, how is the state planning on covering the pension liabilities with the decreased return on investment due to COVID? And the second, I'll let you answer that one, and I'll read you the second one.
No, I see it on chat. So that's a great question. We were very fortunate that the stock market bounced back pretty quick before June 30. So the net investment return for CalPERS was about 4.7% when it should have been 7%. So cities that are in CalPERS like Laguna Beach and Newport Beach will see their contributions go up again in 2 years. The state will also see its contributions go up. The state needs to do several things, but maybe this might be a long answer, but the first is you've got to start paying more. You got to pay more every year to get the liability down. And Diane's been doing that with the city of Newport Beach. In fact, they just moved up quite a few spots in my ranking just because they've been very serious about addressing these unfunded liabilities. But the state did that last year when we had a $20 billion supposed surplus, but now they're taking it away to fund this year's deficit. So we've lost that benefit of prepayment. The second is they've got to change the rules. We shouldn't be looking at a 7% bogey. It should be much lower. And they should actually be looking at changing from this, gold-plated defined benefit pension plan to what's called a shared risk pension plan, which was adopted by the state of Wisconsin back in 1982. And every time you look at the Pew report, Wisconsin is always in first place, and they're always 100% funded because they have a very realistic earnings assumption, and they don't give COLAs if they don't make enough money to retirees, and if they don't meet their goal or their bogey or their benchmark, then they ask the employees to contribute. It's a shared risk. They contribute more. So it's much safer because then they should be assured with 100% funding that they will actually get their retirement benefits. And at the local level, if the state doesn't get it together and make some changes, you know, you may want to do a ballot measure, but we have an attorney general that always writes a lousy ballot title. And so it's miscommunicated and uncertain. And so it doesn't seem to pass. So maybe for a lot of cities, tragically, we may see a lot of Chapter 9 bankruptcies. We may see them saying, wait a second, we'll have to implement a shared risk plan, and we'll have to implement retiree medical changes, and we'll have to implement other changes because the biggest creditors now will be the employees, and that doesn't make sense. So it could be real interesting in the months ahead, but something has to be done. And you know, we can look at states like Illinois and New Jersey to see how they're struggling, and you know, they've got to start making some moves as well. But we've got to get out of this situation. The second question was on gravely disabled, mentally ill people, taking them off the streets. This story goes back 50 years. The Democrats worked to get the Lanterman-Petraeus Short Act approved in the late 60s. And the premise was that the institutions that the state was running were run improperly and that we should shut them down. They saw the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and thought that was a documentary when it was really just a drama. And so they decided we better close the mental institutions where families could at least depend on someone caring for loved ones that couldn't take care of themselves. They made the promise that there would be community support and facilities. Well, they closed the mental institutions and they never built the community services and facilities. And so where did they go? They went on the street. And where did they go from there? They went to the jails. So the largest mental institution in Orange County is the Santa Ana Main Central Jail. We're housing them because they committed crimes, and it's tragic. And so we have Mental Health Services Act, Prop 63, which passed in 2004, and it's a funding source that could help. But we have to change the law. We have to say, wait, if you're gravely disabled, you need to go into an involuntary situation so that we can diagnose and properly medicate you so that you can return to a normal lifestyle. The medication is available, but you know, we shouldn't have to do it in jail. That's the wrong kind of involuntary solution. So this is something that just requires some changes in the law. I tried it with SB 640, and the Democrats, and I keep using Democrats, so maybe I should say the opposition party or the supermajority, they would not give me the 4 votes I needed to get it out of health committee. They didn't vote it down. I didn't get 4 no's. They just didn't want to move forward because California Disability Rights, an organization, said that even if you're mentally ill and on the streets, you still have the right to determine whether or not you want medical treatment. Now, if you don't know you're ill, you're not going to ask for treatment. But we know if you are dealing with dementia, we wouldn't leave you on the streets. If you were dealing with Alzheimer's, we wouldn't leave you on the streets. If you're dealing with a heart attack, we'd grab an ambulance as quickly as possible. So we've got the majority party that just kind of believes that you have a right to be out there. And they don't think about the civil rights of everybody else that has to tolerate the tents, you know, all over public parks and Skid Row and all the rest. And we could fix this. We could actually fix this problem. But the majority party is misdiagnosing, and it just keeps going on for 50 years, and it's tragic.
I don't think they're in a position where they actually care to learn, do they?
You know, it is such a sad thing. You know, you can put a homeless person who's schizophrenic or is bipolar or has depression. You could probably put them in a hotel room. You know, some of them will go in there and still set their tent up in the living room and still sleep inside their tents. But if you don't properly diagnose, you don't work with them in an assisted outpatient treatment and keep them on it, then it's all for naught. And you know, Mr. President, Orange County has so many wonderful, smart people, successful, but they have kids. And one of them may just have schizophrenia. And you'd be surprised where these people that are walking around the streets, where they come from, but their families just can't seem to do anything because they're over 18. And it's tragic. I mean, Einstein had 2 sons. One was in a mental institution almost his whole life. you know, this happens, and we've got a lot of residents. It's sort of the big family secret here in Orange County, and we're not treating it like we should. And it's shameful that we're treating all these homeless people, with a majority of them with mental health issues, which then leads into drug addiction problems, to self-medicate, and we've got to get them off of this dependency. We've got to get them back to the road of recovery. And when you do, they wake up and they go, how come you left me on the street so long? When you finally get them to a point where they should be. So I'm a little emotional about it, Mr. President, because I've had too many people, too many couples that I've talked to, and they've lost their kids. You know, if you're, to depression, I mean, the suicide rate is high, and it's tragic to just look in the eyes of these parents who really were looking for solutions, and the government didn't provide them.
I see we have a couple questions there. Can you see them as well, John?
Does CalPERS issue a report each year documenting the pension shortfall? And the answer is yes. You can go to their website, and you can. They also have a comprehensive annual financial report, and so that's available to the public, and they've been pretty timely on that. You mentioned $2 billion for homeless. What is the accounting for that money? The Mental Health Services Act, which is Prop 63. It's called the millionaire's tax. So if you have taxable income of $1 million or more, you pay another 1%, and that money goes to the state and to the counties. So the county of Orange has been benefiting from these funds. The problem with the proposition is that it wasn't very specific enough about where you could use that money. So we had to do a ballot measure with our Proposition 2 in 2018 to allocate a small portion of that to hypothecate or securitize the income stream, so we could issue debt and then pay for it out of an existing tax revenue. The $2 billion is now available through grant programs. And so if you receive grant funding, then you will have to report what you do with those funds. Every one of the 58 counties already has to report what it does with the proceeds of Prop 63. They get it every year. And there's also a statewide organization, a committee that oversees the entire program to make sure that what you're doing is innovative. And that's where the problem has been. There's not much left that's innovative. And so a lot of money kind of just got trapped for a while, but we're getting to free things up. I did a joint authorship with a liberal San Francisco senator by the name of Scott Wiener to try and get more funding for prevention and early intervention. And so we're trying to get that money dedicated for key areas, because the sooner you can deal with younger people with their mental illness, the better their future is. Most mental illness will show up around age 21 when they're in college. And so if you can diagnose it or see it sooner, then that would be helpful. They haven't got I'm rambling a little bit, but we got a great program at Newport Beach's Hoag Hospital called Aspire to help kids and their parents to identify things in high school. So this is an existing revenue source, and there has to be an accounting. In fact, I did a bill to make sure that they even follow generally accepted accounting principles a few years ago.
I see another question there. I'm not sure. It says in Los Angeles County, families are currently unable to visit their loved ones conserved and living in skilled nursing facilities. I suspect that's a reference to COVID-19 restrictions.
Yeah. People in senior living situations right now, you can maybe visit through a window. That brings up a whole different subject, Mr. President. I like calling you Mr. President. We're getting studies that the country of Sweden decided that we have influenza, we have a pandemic, but you're on your own. We're not going to shut your businesses down. If you're vulnerable, then you self-quarantine and take care of yourself. But we're not going to quarantine everybody like other countries have done. And the data is coming out now that right now Sweden has a minimal death rate. Where other countries are still, showing spikes. So if you were to focus on letting people just do what they're supposed to do, have the herd immunity, that it actually works. And so it's tragic to see this country still locked down, a governor that is scared to death about doing anything, keeping the Disney resort in Orange County, California shut while the Disney resort in Orange County, Florida is open. I mean, we're seeing television ads in Orange County to go to Florida to see Mickey Mouse. I mean, how ironic is this that, that we have a governor that if you go to downtown Disney, you will have your temperature taken. You might even be sniffed by dogs. You will, if you have a temperature, you'll be helped by staff from Hoag Memorial Hospital right there in a tent right away, and you certainly won't be let in. And so they have people all over downtown Disney to make sure you're socially distancing, that you're wearing masks, that you clean your hands, that you're even spacing yourself in line at the Disney store, and it's probably costing them way more than you would expect because of all the extra staffing, but they're still doing it, and it can be done. And so I'm in a different camp, but for those that are vulnerable, my mother lives in a facility, and they just had 4 residents, contract COVID. Where, after all this time, where would that come from, and how does that happen? Fortunately, my mother was restricted to her apartment in a senior living facility because they misdiagnosed her and they told her to stay in her place. So God works in strange ways. So she's fine, but at these skilled nursing facilities, we still have to be very careful. But for the rest of the public, let's get on with life, for crying out loud. Open our businesses and let's move forward.
I think there's one question, but I'm not sure I understand it. You can probably read it, John. I'm not sure what it means. It says, who administers the grants?
Yeah, there's I should have it all memorized, all these acronyms, but we have a committee up in Sacramento that's accepting the grants. The director, his face is right in front of me, so I apologize. I can look it up if Mr. Goodman needs it. I can try and find that for him later.
Okay. So unless there's any other questions, I think we really appreciate John. You're going through all this. As always, you do an outstanding job. In fact, everyone today did an outstanding job, Diane and Michelle. And I think clearly, from my perspective, and I think from every Republican's perspective, we have got to win them all. Winning one might be good, winning 2 might be good, but we must win them all. And we must begin to take back Orange County from the craziness that occurred 2 years ago. So thank you all for attending this. So unless there's anyone would like to make any other closing statements, I think we can call this one a meeting, and a good one at that. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll see you.